Welcome to Thrive Radio. I'm your host, Amy Montgomery, entrepreneur and digital marketing agency owner. Today, my guest is Gary Coles. He's a communication coach with a background rooted in the American West and a unique blend of experiences from growing up on a ranch to serving as a Green Beret. Through Cowboy Coaching, Gary offers a range of services, including interview coaching, executive coaching, and ESL training, all guided by the timeless principles of the Code of the West. Join me today as we dive in with Gary's journey and discover the transformation power of effective communication and leadership. Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It is a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited for our conversation, and I feel like you've got a very unique business and very unique angle. So I'm sure that everyone will be really excited to listen. So can you share a little bit about your journey and growing up on a ranch and to becoming a communication coach? How did your upbringing influence your approach to coaching and mentoring?
Okay, I guess a couple of ways. One of the things I started getting into communications because I grew up on a ranch without many people around, talking to the horses. So when I got to college, I thought communication is key to success. So I took some speech classes. I worked to learn to speak and not just to horses. So that was one key. Second thing, leadership. Now, when you're a little tiny kid and you have a great big horse, you want to go one place and that horse might want to go another. You cannot force that horse. So you have to start developing some leadership ideas. And that's what really got me started with this about how do you get horses to do what you would like? How do you get people to do what you would like? How do you bring out the best in them? So this kind of came from the ranch, along with the Code of the West. You mentioned that. When I grew up, there was a very popular book that was found with copies clear around the world by an author named Zane Grey. It was called Code of the West. And he gave some principles that are really important in life and in business. Now, it's a thing that a lot of people don't stop and think about this every day. But I'm going to take a second and go through 10 of these principles here. And actually, these were even adopted by my home state, Wyoming. They have their own code of ethics. So, with the Code of the West, number one is live each day with courage. Great way to start out. Number two, take pride in your work. Number three, always finish what you start. That's a tough one for me. I have so many things I want to do. Number four, do what has to be done. Five, this one for leadership, be tough but fair. Number six, when you make a promise, keep it. Number seven, ride for the brand. Now, in the West, we have branding irons where we mark the cattle and horses. And so really what this is saying, when you ride for the brand, you're being loyal to your ranch, to your company. Number eight, talk less, say more. Number nine, remember that some things are not for sale. And number 10, know where to draw the line. So that really is my background. That's what got me going.
I love that. I talk to so many individuals and leadership coaches that harness horses for coaching as well. So it makes a ton of sense to me that you would gain a lot of insight in working with people, because when leaders go and start working around horses, they learn really fast about themselves and about others, right?
Exactly. And that's what I grew up with. And I try not to forget some of those lessons that my Arabian stallion taught me.
Yeah, definitely. So you also have a background as a Green Beret in the U.S. Army Special Forces, and that's really impressive. How do you think your military experience has shaped your leadership style and your approaching with coaching executives and business leaders?
Okay, one of the things we think about Green Beret is the great big tough guys. A lot of us were not that big. And it was the thing that we were not primarily taught about action missions, although we were taught that. Our main mission would have been to be behind enemy lines, teaching, coaching, and helping the indigenous personnel who would be trying to fight behind the enemy lines. And so we learned how to teach to individuals from different cultures and in a wartime background. And that is a tough thing to do. But we were taught to watch out for these people, to help them with their community, teach them sanitation, possibly, all of these things, trying to really be a great help while we're teaching, maybe teaching tactics, maybe teaching medical care. And so that was a big thing in my learning how to coach, how to teach. Also, the fact that uh, sometimes you were put in some horrible situations and you had to learn to depend on the people around you and on yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I think that in leadership, it's so difficult sometimes for, especially in the executive corporate type world, to bond with those that are on their team. And you go in, you put the monkey suit on, and you go to work, and then you come home, and it's very different sometimes than who you are at home. And gosh, being in the military, where like you're on the ground together, that's got to be some really powerful insights that you can bring to a team.
It really does bring a lot. And I always encourage people to do something, join the military, the Peace Corps, do something out to expand your horizons. It can really add a lot.
So you also help people that struggle with making a great first impression during interviews. What are some practical tips you offer to help individuals stand out and leave the lasting impression on potential employers? That's really important right now, especially because it's so competitive out there.
Okay, the number one thing is make that great impression. You've got, and I use the term 8 seconds to connect with someone. And you have to have a smile, a genuine smile, eye contact, and you've got to have some energy, some passion. And that starts out. Now, some people say 8 seconds, that's impossible. That's not much time. I was a rodeo rider too, and I'm trying to stay on a bucking horse for 8 seconds. That's what's required. That 8 seconds on a bucking horse is a lifetime. And you see so much. You're seeing the arena, you're thinking of the horse, what they're going to do, what you're going to do. And the same thing in an interview. You've got to make the most of that 8 seconds. You have to believe in yourself. You have to show your passion. You have to show that you're glad you're there. That's the beginning.
You've mentioned that you have helped individuals secure job offers like at Amazon, Facebook, and walk them through coaching. Can you share some of your success stories and also the common pitfalls you've observed and addressed during the coaching sessions that might maybe something that might help somebody that's listening to the podcast and maybe they're up for their dream job? What advice would you give?
That there is so much there in that question. Now, every time I've helped somebody, it is very different. One of the big things is to get someone to believe in themselves. If you believe enough, care enough, work a little bit, you can do anything. And one of my favorite ones was and I had started out really doing business coaching, and I started getting some people wanting help with the English because I was getting people from all over the world. I got a student from Russia, spoke Russian and broken English. He wanted to go to work for Facebook. That's a tough one. They have so many people that want that. We started out, we worked very hard on his English, but we worked on interview skills and told him sometimes you've got to take it step by step. We worked, and within a few months, he started interviewing with other companies left Russia, got a job in France with another company, and we kept working. Worked more on the English, worked more on the coaching, and he, last I knew, was working for Facebook in London.
Oh, wow.
That was to me a big one, but it's the same thing. I've had people that say, I really want Amazon, and they were native speakers. And it was just the idea of where you've got to show that you are the person they want. There are so many people with skill, but they don't have the communication skills.
Yeah.
So I take the time to help them develop the communication skills. Sometimes it goes fairly quick, and sometimes it takes a lot of work. And as I work with them, I overall try to build their confidence. Confidence is important, but then you have to have communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have seen some fantastic individuals. They knew their job forward and backwards and upside down, but they couldn't communicate. And there would be someone else would get the job that did not have the technical skills.
So, what are some of the challenges that you've seen, the struggles around communication? Maybe one that you've seen over and over again that people are dealing with?
One of them is people talk too fast, and other people have trouble really understanding them. Second is that maybe walking in without a little bit of belief in themselves. If I step into an interview and I'm slumped down, who's going to care? Who's this guy? If I walk in and I'm full of energy, I get their attention. And so I try to get individuals I work with to show their best. Another thing, real often I'll ask somebody, tell me about yourself. And they start giving a recital of their resume. The person interviewing them knows all that. They're wasting precious time. So I try to coach them to tell a fascinating story in the beginning. For example, I might say, instead of getting out there and telling my history of going through the Army and growing up on a ranch, and I am in an interview, and I'll say, let me tell you about myself. My first example in business was growing up on a ranch where I'm trying to get all these cows to go one way, and they all want to go this way. That person listening to me is hearing a story. And we all have stories.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story. And when we tell that from our heart, people listen and we connect. So that's a big thing. I try to get people to connect with the person who's interviewing them.
Well, and you shared a really interesting story when we met prior to the podcast, and where you were challenged to communicate in a foreign language. Can you share a little bit about that story?
Okay. And I think that was the story about when I first got to Mexico. I probably had third grade ability in speech, but I could understand a lot. There are a lot of common words. I went to a seminar at a university, a panel discussion on immigration and the border. I'm the only non-native speaker there. And I'm understanding a lot. A television announcer came up and he asked me, what are you doing here? I said, this is important and I want to learn more. I'm with my friends. And he's talking in English. So he starts asking me questions about the seminar. After a few minutes, he says, hey, this is interesting. May I interview you on television? I like television. It's fun. I said, sure. Well, he went to get his cameraman, came back, and he says, wow, we have a huge audience today. One call in after another. And he said, are you ready? I said, I'm ready. And we've been talking in English. Red light comes on. This company has two channels. One is English, one is Spanish. The question was in Spanish. I could have died. And I tell this to my students in an interview. Hey, you think you know what terror is? You should have seen me. Pure terror, but I'm going to do it. So I did exactly what I tell people. I took a couple of deep breaths, big smile, and I went ahead in third grade Spanish. And I answered the question, then another and another. I didn't use any big words. I didn't do any complex language, but I had some passion. I cared. I was trying to communicate. And the interview went quite a while. Finally, it's over. He thanks me. I go back to my friends and I said, "What did you think?" And they said, "Wow, that was great. You really said some important things." Again, I told myself silently, "You can do it." And I did it. Now, was it perfect Spanish? But it was great communication.
I love that.
I feel anyone can do that. And I try to communicate that when I'm working with somebody to learn about interviewing or presentations, any type of communication. And we have so much in business.
Yeah. So you also do a lot of charity work, and you've Habitat Humanity, Salvation Army, and you've expressed really your passion about being part of things that are contributing to society and all that. So what are you working on right now?
Right now, I am helping 4 deserving students from Mexico. When I first met them, I walked into their grandma's house. The only running water was coming through the roof into buckets. There were buckets all over. Intermittent electricity, no internet, the highest education anyone in the whole extended family had ever had was grade school. They were lucky to finish primary school.
Yeah.
A few months ago, the oldest, graduated from high school. First ever. But I have been supporting, helping his sister, 2 years behind, is going to be a doctor. No ifs, ands, or buts. She is going to do it. The 2 younger kids are doing great. One is extremely artistic, but I put together because it is a lot to support 4 more kids there. But I put together a GoFundMe account. And I know you have the link. I guess you'll be sharing that. And it's, to me, it is just so important. And I'm trying to help these 4 kids have a wonderful life. So many of us don't realize what we had. My parents did a lot for me, got me through school. I never had to worry about things. They helped some with college. That was another great thing about the Army. The GI Bill helped a lot.
Yeah.
And so I feel I always, with my family, learned that you really should give back to help others. Because whether we acknowledge it or not, there are always people throughout our lives help each other. And we really are entitled, really have a responsibility to give back. So I try.
And you have extensive experience working in with different cultures and just people with diverse backgrounds, especially those that where English is second language. What are some ways that you help those individuals? How do you approach helping them with the communication? And you've mentioned a little bit, but what are some of the other ways that you've been able to help?
Okay, probably the first thing I do is I try to know a little bit about their culture. Because if I don't know how to communicate with them, that's on me, it's difficult to help.
Yeah.
And for example, I may have a culture where no matter what I say, they're being polite and yes. They may be meaning no. And I have to know that. I have another culture where I do one little thing and he'll say, I don't like that. Very, it's not that he's angry or harsh. It is the fact that his culture is very direct. So my first thing is to know what the culture is that I'm working with. And I recommend this to any of the business people I'm coaching, that when you work with different cultures, learn about those cultures. There's so much on the internet, we can learn a lot of it. And then I really try to listen. I try to give them a chance to speak up. Now, I'm teaching English as a second language, and I tell them right up front, I'm not an English teacher, but I have something I've learned through research, through experience, works pretty well. I don't try to correct them as they're talking, but I'll come back a little later after we have our conversation and make some changes. Let's say this differently. I'll try to get them to write things so we can go through and look at their grammar. And reading out loud is awesome for anyone from any culture. When we read out loud, we are seeing words, we're pronouncing them, and we're hearing them. Three senses. And we even self-correct. I've learned this from a linguistics professor. He's Spanish and I teach him. We self-correct. I do that. And even with students from the United States, some college students, I will have them doing some reading out loud because we learn more. We really pick it up and we retain more. So that's probably a big part of it.
So what do you think has been your truth that has gotten you this far in your journey?
Invest in yourself and build a better future. That's really what I have done all along. And that's really what it is. Believe in yourself, to be passionate about everything you do, and go for it.
Like that. So Gary, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise today.
Okay, thank you so very much for having me. It's just your podcast to me is fantastic. I've been looking at a lot of the recorded ones, and I think it's fantastic that you are helping so many people by doing this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love it. It's a passion of mine. And I love connecting with all the business owners as well, encouraging each other. We've got a good tribe going on. And I do want to ask if there's individuals that are listening that would love to work with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Okay, the best way is actually my email, garytcoles@gmail.com. And then with my website on the contact page, there is a way to actually book a free uh, introductory session. So both of those are great.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put all your links down below.
Okay. And I do want to remind people they can give back in that GoFundMe account $5, $50, but every dollar helps these kids.
I love that. Perfect. So if you're listening and you want more information about this podcast and upcoming shows, you can visit acalltothrive.com. Thank you everyone for listening today, and we'll see you next week.